Good afternoon, everybody. It's Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports, and if we didn't cover it all this morning in an hour and a half, and we didn't, we're going to try to cover some more ground tonight. Great to be back with you. I'm live on remote, actually, this afternoon as I broadcast this show. Yes, we are live, and it's All-Star Game Night 2019, and who's excited about that? I tell you what, won't it be very difficult to beat the excitement of the Home Run Derby? I mean, last night, we talked about it this morning, it was just, never before. Vladimir Guerrero, 91 home runs, and I even told you, over 7 miles worth of distance and home runs just from Vladimir Guerrero alone, and the total number of home runs, wow, 25.8 miles. I mean, nothing ever like it in Home Run Derby history. The semifinal between Guerrero and Jock Peterson will have to go down as one of the great Home Run Derby ever matchups. And then Alonso winning the championship over who had to be totally worn out, swinging the bat as many times as he did against Peterson, like double overtime. You know, it was like a team played double overtime, and then they were said, okay, now you got to go play the championship game right after this one. And that's sort of the situation that Guerrero was in last night when he took on Alonso in the final. So congratulations to Pete Alonso. And I tell you what else the guy did. You know, he won $1 million last night by winning the Derby. And then he goes and he says, I'm going to contribute 10% of what I've earned to 2 very good causes. And, you know, he only makes a little over $500,000 in salary, which is good money, right? But for baseball players, not so much. And then, you know, what he earned last night is double his yearly salary. And to say I'm going to give 10% of that, I just think that speaks a lot for Pete Alonso. Way to go, Pete. I'm sure your 30 home runs, your Home Run Derby title, you're going to hit more in the second half, and in all likelihood, the NL Rookie of the Year. So kudos to you. Great job by Vlad Guerrero. Great job by Jock Peterson in that semifinal. It was just so exciting. And so tonight, we look at the starting lineups for the American and National League All-Star team. And I want to go through that with you. And I also have an announcement from Cora on his pitching. But the All-Stars, the National League, will start this way. Christian Yelich will lead off and play left field. Javier Baez will bat second and play shortstop. Freddie Freeman batting third, playing first base. Cody Bellinger batting cleanup, playing right field. Nolan Arenado batting fifth and playing third base. Josh Bell batting sixth. He's the designated hitter tonight. The major league leader in RBIs with 84 as we are now at the All-Star break. Batting seventh, Wilson Contreras, the Chicago Cub catcher. Batting eighth, Ketel Marte, playing second base tonight for the National League All-Stars. And batting ninth, Ronald Acuna Jr., the reigning National League Rookie of the Year. Can you imagine a team that Ronald Acuna is batting ninth on? Only an All-Star team, right? Hyun-Jin Ryu will start on the mound, the first Korean-born pitcher to ever start an All-Star game in Major League history. I heard Lenny today on another network being sort of a guest host, if you will, he and Andrea, and he made the comment that there were 2 All-Star games in the late 50s to the early 60s each season, and what a big event the All-Star game was. I can remember, you know, being a little kid back in the 70s watching the All-Star game. You know, back then, and I know you guys who are, you know, 80ers, born in the 80s, you have no idea what I'm talking about other than what you've heard. But to go to, or to be able to watch a baseball game midweek during the week, that was only playoff games and All-Star games. You know, you had the Saturday NBC Game of the Week, Joe Garagiola, and Kurt Gowdy, and then followed that with Tony Kubek, and then Bob Costas came in near the end of that reign. And then you'd have Monday Night Baseball back in the 70s. Bob Uecker, Howard Cosell. Yeah, Howard Cosell. He would be announcing Monday night games. I remember Mark Fidrich, sort of like, it wasn't his debut, but almost seemed like it, because his first nationally televised game was a game he pitched against the Yankees at home in 1976. It was just, theater, because you only got it once a week. And now, of course, with the onset of DirecTV, with the onset of cell phones and tablets, wireless coverage, you watch a game every night. Sometimes you can watch 5 or 6 games a day if you had time to do it. So the All-Star game lost a little luster. Also, of course, you went to interleague games. Back in the 70s, when I was watching baseball, how awesome it was to watch Vida Blue, Catfish Hunter, Jim Palmer pitch in games against Don Sutton, J.R. Richard, Steve Carlton. These guys, they never faced each other. To watch Jim Palmer go up against Steve Garvey, or Catfish Hunter face Pete Rose or Johnny Bench in an All-Star game, it just never happened until you got to the All-Star games or you went to the playoffs. And so I think the All-Star game has lost a little luster because of the marketing, because of interleague. But nonetheless, what a great game it'll be tonight. For the American League, George Springer leads it off, playing right field. DJ LeMahieu bats second, playing second. Mike Trout, heard that guy before, leads the American League in home runs and RBIs at the All-Star break. No shock there. He's batting third, playing center field. Carlos Santana, the homegrown product, I know they'll be lighting it up for him, cheering him on at home. He's batting cleanup and playing first base. He is second in the American League at the All-Star break in OPS, slugging plus on-base percentage. So, great season, great comeback year, coming back home, Carlos Santana. Batting fifth, Boston Red Sox world champion hero J.D. Martinez. He's the designated hitter. Alex Bregman from Houston. He's the third baseman, batting sixth. Gary Sanchez is the starting catcher. Sanchez with 24 home runs. He's batting seventh. Michael Brantley. I wonder what kind of applause he'll get tonight in Cleveland. He came up a Cleveland Indian, became a free agent, a first-time All-Star starting this year for Houston. He's batting seventh and playing left field. I bet he gets a big round of applause coming back home to Cleveland. Jorge Polanco batting ninth, playing shortstop, and Justin Verlander, the starting pitcher. I don't know if you heard it or not, but Justin Verlander takes the podium today, starting pitcher tonight. That was the purpose of taking the podium. And he goes on to criticize Major League Baseball for all of the home runs that have been hit. He talked about the fact that Major League Baseball owns the Rawlings Company, that there were some discussions between baseball with Rawlings to make the balls more lively. There was a statement this afternoon by the commissioner. Manfred said nothing to it. We haven't done that. We haven't had any discussions. It's a bunch of hogwash. Now, I'm, of course, not quoting, but that's in essence what he said. I do know this. We are on pace this year for over 6,600 home runs to be hit, which will exceed the all-time record hit in 2017 by 500 home runs if we continue at the pace that we're on now, okay? And you need look no further than someone like, say, Freddie Galvis, the Toronto Blue Jays shortstop. Freddie Galvis has hit 15 home runs. Here we are at the All-Star break. I mean, come on. Is Freddie Galvis really a 25 home run kind of guy? I don't think so. But in 2019, I know so. He is. And that's what we're looking at going into the All-Star break. That's the starting lineup for the All-Stars. I remember some of my favorite All-Star moments. In the 70s, early 80s, the National League always won. It was incredible. You would watch the All-Star game in the 70s, and it was a foregone conclusion almost that the National League was going to win the game. And they won, I think it was something like 17 out of 18. Incredible streak. And then in 1983, Atlee Hammaker, number 7, pitching for the National League, He of the San Francisco Giants facing Freddie Lynn of the California Angels at the time. Freddie Lynn hits the first grand slam in All-Star history, propelling the American League to a victory. Then they went back and forth for a few years. I remember Fernando Valenzuela in 1986, striking out in succession, Reggie Jackson, George Brett. I mean, it was just one of those things. He struck out like 5 in a row. Mattingly was one of those. And strike out George Brett, Reggie Jackson, Mattingly, 5 in a row. Those were 3 of the players. Was just an incredible feat. Fernando did it in 86. And then during the 90s, the American League won fairly regularly. The All-Star Game has changed in the way it's been played. No longer, I think one of the stupidest thing I ever heard of was the winner of the All-Star Game. That league had the home field advantage during the World Series. That was crazy. But they don't do that anymore. Thank goodness. We can just watch the game, enjoy the game. First pitch is tonight at 7:30 from Cleveland. So hopefully you'll be able to watch, and I'm sure talk about the game, hopefully with as much excitement and enthusiasm as we've been able to talk about Home Run Derby that was last night. So good luck to both teams. Look forward to it. So here's what I want to do. I want to play general manager. I want to talk about some trades teams are likely to make, probable to make as we go forward. And I want to first talk about a pitcher that is of interest to me, fantasy-wise, yes, also in reality. But the Mets, 10 games under 500 as we sit here at the All-Star break. And they have some players on their team who are more than probable trade chips. How about Zach Wheeler? Zach Wheeler, with a 6-6 record, he struck out 130 batters so far this year. But his ERA is 4.69. His whip is 126. His last start heading into the break against the Phillies on July 7th, 5 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. And that is fairly characteristic of what we've seen from Zach Wheeler over the course of the year. And my question is, are the Mets, do you think, of course this is play general manager night, we're going to try our best to do that and see what we come up with, but do you think the Mets are going to trade him? And if they are, who is a good trade partner with the Mets? Now, you look at teams who have needs, and a glaring team who needs a starting pitcher, to me, is the Boston Red Sox. The question I have is, who on the Red Sox might the Mets be interested in? And I just don't know there is a player or a minor leaguer. Now, I do know I've watched, fortunately for me, the Red Sox come through the Carolina League, and they have some players at AA and or at AAA. Dahlbeck, a third baseman. Would the Mets be interested in a power-hitting third base, first base type? Of course, Alonso's cemented at first base right now for the Mets, so I don't know about that. They also have a outfielder just promoted to AA, Duran. Duran can run like a deer, good contact, great average, and I've seen him hit with some power at the Carolina League, recently promoted to AA. But those are possible chips that the Red Sox have in any trade. Chatham, also an infielder, is at AA, good hitter. They've got some arms that can, be potential, but these guys are not major league ready, and that's what I'm getting at. I just don't know what the Mets might be interested in dealing with the Red Sox. Now, of course, the Yankees, and I could spend probably a whole show talking about the Yankees and who they might be trade partners with. But the Yankees, would they even consider a trade with the Yankees? And that's a great question. The Yankees have pieces both at the major league, minor league level that the Mets could be interested in. Some of them we've seen, some of them we've not seen. Houston, of course, they have an outfielder, Kyle Tucker, that I talked about on this morning's show. And the curiosity I have with Tucker is the same curiosity I have with Urias with San Diego, and that is, if these players are really so good, why haven't they been